So it is important in times like these to have a distraction. And that's why I want to personally extend my gratitude to Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively.
The times where people ignore the red flags and say, let's just keep pushing, those are the times where you fail. The majority of things that we're buying are created by men. You always learn more from your failures than you do your successes.
Blake Lively's reputation is taking a hit, and fast. The Critics' Choice Awards are supposed to be a celebration of Hollywood's best, but instead, Chelsea Handler turned it into a public roast session. And guess who was at the center of it? Blake. Handler didn't hold back, making Lively's lawsuit against Justin Baldoni sound like a desperate last-ditch attempt at saving face. The audience? Awkward laughter. Some even looked downright uncomfortable. And here's the thing. This isn't just a bad joke at Blake's expense. It's evidence of something bigger. Hollywood is turning its back on her. The same industry that once embraced her as the golden girl is now distancing itself. Why? Because when late-night hosts and comedians start openly mocking you, it's a sign that your credibility is slipping. Fast. Taylor Swift, one of Lively's closest allies, isn't rushing to her defense. And that silence, it speaks volumes. Remember how quickly celebrities jump to take sides during the Depp versus Heard trial? The same thing is happening now. People are choosing where to stand. And right now, Lively's side is looking a little empty. But how did we even get here? What went wrong? And why does this scandal feel eerily familiar to one of the biggest Hollywood trials in recent memory? Chelsea Handler knew exactly what she was doing. Standing on that Critics' Choice Award stage, microphone in hand, she didn't just throw shade.
Told us that Justin Baldoni claims she tried to take over his movie because she has a history of saying, okay, I'll be the star, but what I secretly want to do is direct it and edit it and produce it. I want all the roles for me and only me. I want full control because I am a controlling bully. That Justin Baldoni, ultimately, by the time they got to the premiere, was mandated by Blake Lively to spend the night in the basement away from his co-stars and didn't even get to see the final cut of his own movie because Blake Lively insisted that she be the one to approve it.
House on fire. With that signature smirk, she turned Blake Lively's lawsuit against Justin Baldoni into the punchline of the night. And it wasn't subtle. Handler sarcastically thanked Lively for the drama, calling her legal battle one of the most entertaining sagas in Hollywood right now. The implication? This isn't a serious case. It's a spectacle. A PR stunt gone horribly wrong. But here's where things get really interesting. The reaction. The room wasn't just chuckling out of politeness. Hollywood A-listers, Margot Robbie, Orlando Bloom, even directors and producers who usually stay out of celebrity drama, were laughing and clapping. Not in a nervous, oh no, this is awkward kind of way, but in a way that said everything, they're over it. And that's dangerous for Blake. In an industry built on public perception, the moment the insiders stop taking you seriously, it's game over. When people start treating your crisis like a joke, it means your credibility is hanging by a thread, and judging by that audience's reaction, that thread is already snapping. But what exactly led to this moment? How did Blake go from Hollywood royalty to the subject of award show ridicule? Let's break it down. Blake Lively thought she had the perfect playbook. If history had taught Hollywood anything, it was that certain accusations could instantly shift public perception, turning one person into a villain and the other into a hero. And for a while, it seemed like Lively was banking on that exact strategy.
Was what Blake says, a conversation that she heard had taken place with Steve Sarowitz. Steve Sarowitz is the head of Wayfair Studios. He is the co-founder of Wayfair Studios, along with Justin. And she says in this lawsuit that, is it interesting? She says, this is what I heard, he said, but it's presented as a quote in the lawsuit. She says that Steve said, I will protect the studio like Israel protected itself from Hamas.
Positioning herself as a feminist icon, a voice against industry misconduct, a champion of justice. She accused Justin Baldoni of harassment, claiming he made inappropriate comments and spread harmful rumors about her. The story spread fast. At first, the media ran with it, painting her as yet another powerful woman standing up against the Hollywood machine. Headlines flooded in. Social media exploded with support. It seemed like the court of public opinion had already ruled in her favor. But then Baldoni did something unexpected. He fought back. Hard. And with receipts. He wasn't just denying the claims. He was dismantling them, piece by piece, with evidence that raised serious doubts. Contradictions in Lively's stories started surfacing, making it impossible to ignore. What started as an airtight narrative suddenly had cracks, big ones. Then came the real turning point. The media, once her strongest ally, began stepping back. Outlets that had previously championed her case now hesitated. Even the New York Times, which had put out a major article supporting her, found itself in legal trouble. Baldoni hit them with a lawsuit, accusing them of defamation and civil extortion. That's when things really unraveled. When a publication as powerful as the New York Times faces legal action for backing a claim, it sends a clear message. This isn't just a messy Hollywood scandal. It's a full-blown credibility crisis. And Lively, she's the one stuck in the middle.
He and 9 other plaintiffs, including his publicists, have brought a $250 million lawsuit against the New York Times, essentially alleging them of libel and false light invasion of privacy. So Justin Baldoni's lawyer, Brian Friedman, he told BBC's partner CBS that the newspaper aided and abetted a smear campaign designed to revitalise Lively's floundering.
Watching her PR strategy fall apart in real time. But this isn't just about public relations. This is about Hollywood itself. And the way the industry is reacting says everything about where this is headed. Justin Baldoni wasn't about to let this slide. Instead of backing down, he came back swinging with a $400 million lawsuit. And he didn't just go after Blake Lively. He named Ryan Reynolds and the New York Times in the suit, accusing them of defamation and civil extortion. That number, $400 million, wasn't just for show. It sent a message. He wasn't just clearing his name. He was making sure there were real consequences for what he called a deliberate smear campaign. Then came the leaks, text messages, emails, and they weren't good for Lively. Evidence started surfacing that suggested she had been controlling the narrative from the very beginning, shaping the story to fit a particular image. Conversations that were meant to stay private suddenly became public, and they painted a very different picture of what had really been going on behind the scenes. And it didn't stop there. HR documents and production records started making the rounds, revealing that Lively had made some over-the-top demands during filming. Some reports claimed she went as far as trying to control Baldoni's involvement in his own project, allegedly pushing to have him kept away from the final cut of the film. That's not just a power move. That's an attempt to completely rewrite the narrative, both on screen and off.
That she became uncomfortable with Justin Baldoni yesterday while she was filming. She states that Mr. Baldoni put his bare hands on her backside and said that he was trying to help her with her posture. Complainant immediately voiced her displeasure with being touched on an intimate part of her body, and Mr. Baldoni responded with, "It's fine, I'm totally hot for my wife," in a dismissive tone.
Baldoni wasn't just arguing that Lively had made false claims. He was saying she had a motive. He claimed she wasn't just trying to ruin his reputation. She was trying to sideline him entirely. If she could paint him as the villain, she could take control of the project, the story, and even the public's perception of her role in all of it. But now, with all this new evidence coming to light, Hollywood was starting to see things differently. And that's when the real fallout began. Blake Lively's accusations weren't just about workplace tensions. They took a deeply personal turn. One of her biggest claims, that Justin Baldoni made inappropriate comments while she was breastfeeding on set. It was the kind of accusation designed to spark outrage, to paint Baldoni as someone who crossed a deeply personal boundary. And at first, it worked. But then the text messages came out, and they told a different story. Instead of Baldoni being the one fixated on the topic, it was Lively who had repeatedly brought up breastfeeding in casual conversations. Not only that, but the messages painted a picture of a completely different dynamic. one where she had been comfortable discussing it, even joking about it at times. And then came the bombshell. Evidence surfaced showing that Lively had actually invited Baldoni into her trailer while breastfeeding. That detail changed everything. It directly contradicted her claim that he had intruded. Suddenly, the entire foundation of her accusations started crumbling. If this major claim had been distorted, what did that say about the rest of her allegations?
In Blake's first amended complaint, Blake changed what she alleges about what happened while filming the slow dance scene, now that the footage has been released for everyone to see. So what they're saying is, now that, Justin Baldoni shared the truth of what it looks like, they're no longer making the same claims. Previously, they said Miss Lively was filming a slow dance scene for a montage in which no sound was recorded. Of course, Justin proved there was sound. Mr. Baldoni chose to let the camera roll and have them perform the scene, but did not act in character as Ryle. Instead, he spoke to Miss Lively out of character as himself.
This was the moment when the tide really started turning against Lively. People who had been on her side, both in Hollywood and in the media, began second-guessing everything. If this story had holes, how many others did too? And once that doubt crept in, there was no stopping it. Ryan Reynolds is in trouble. At first, he stood by Blake Lively, supporting her, defending her. But now, he's caught in the crossfire, and Baldoni's lawsuit is dragging him in. According to the legal filings, Reynolds didn't just back his wife emotionally. He allegedly interfered with the production of Baldoni's movie, and not in a small way. The accusations: Reynolds reportedly tried to rewrite scenes, bring in his own editor, and wrestle control of the film away from Baldoni. It wasn't just standard Hollywood involvement, it was overreach. And that tension, according to sources, exploded behind the scenes. Baldoni wasn't just dealing with Lively, he was fighting off Reynolds too. Now, Reynolds is in an impossible position. If he stays loyal to Lively, he risks going down with her. If he distances himself, it'll be seen as betrayal. And the industry? They're watching his every move. But here's where things get even messier. Taylor Swift. She and Lively were once inseparable, constantly seen together, constantly hyping each other up. In the beginning, Swift showed subtle support, liking posts, leaving comments, signaling to the world that she was on Blake's side. But then, January 2025 happened.
And that's part of the point that Justin's team is making in kind of complying with what they're viewing as threats made on her behalf against Justin, is like, well, there's this financial consequence to everything in addition to the strike consequences too, right? So they filmed May to June, then shut down for the strike, and then they were down until January. But I think that the strike lifted in November, but then she had all these return to work provisions.
That's when Baldoni's hard evidence hit the public. And Swift, she went silent. No more likes, no more comments, no more signs of support. And silence, in this case, speaks louder than words. Insiders are saying Swift's PR team is actively working to put distance between her and Lively, making sure the scandal doesn't taint her own reputation. Then came the leaked texts. Messages where Lively allegedly referred to Swift and Reynolds as her loyal dragons, painting them as her protectors. But here's the twist. Swift didn't like that. In fact, sources say she found it manipulative. And if there's one thing Swift hates, it's feeling like she's being used. With Swift backing away, and Reynolds trapped in a no-win situation, Lively's support system is crumbling. And in Hollywood, once your closest allies start walking away, it's only a matter of time before the rest follow. Blake Lively's Hollywood fairy tale is unraveling fast. Insiders are already making comparisons, and they're not flattering. The name being whispered, Amber Heard, and we all know how that story ended. Just like Heard's case against Johnny Depp, Lively's lawsuit started as a bold accusation, one that seemed, at first, like it could reshape careers. But as more evidence came out, public opinion flipped. Now, the industry isn't just skeptical, it's openly mocking her. And here's why that's important. Award shows almost never joke about serious allegations. It's a line Hollywood doesn't cross, unless they've already made up their minds. The fact that Chelsea Handler's jokes weren't just allowed, but actually celebrated, is proof enough. The industry isn't taking Lively seriously anymore.
Asking for the gag order and explaining how he's talking too much. He's threatening to post stuff on public sites. So what I think is, this looks good for Baldoni, right? He's like, we want to make it all public. And sometimes lawyers can do this knowing that they can't actually do what they say they're going to do.
That's what makes this so brutal. The 2026 trial is still on the horizon, technically giving her one last chance to clear her name. But let's be real. She's already lost where it matters most, the court of public opinion. And once that verdict is in, there's no appeal. Handler's joke about there being no sequel, it wasn't just about the movie. It was about Lively's career. Hollywood's already decided. Her time in the spotlight is over. And in an industry that thrives on reinvention, the real question now isn't whether she can clear her name in court. It's whether she'll ever get another chance to come back at all. Blake Lively's lawsuit isn't just falling apart, it's collapsing in real time. What started as a bold legal move has now turned into a career-ending disaster. Hollywood has made its decision, and it's not in her favor. Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni isn't just defending himself, he's going on the offensive. With lawsuits, leaked evidence, and industry backing, he's flipped the script entirely. He's not just surviving this scandal, he's winning. And then there's Ryan Reynolds, caught in the middle. He's standing at a crossroads. Stay loyal to his wife and risk going down with her, or step away and protect his own reputation. Either choice comes with consequences, and Hollywood is watching his every move. As for Taylor Swift, she saw the writing on the wall and walked away before the damage could reach her. No more support, no more solidarity, just silence. And in moments like this, silence is the loudest response of all. Chelsea Handler didn't just make a joke, she delivered a verdict. When Hollywood starts openly mocking you, that's when you know it's over. Not just for the lawsuit, for the career, for the legacy, for the entire persona that Lively spent years building. So the question now isn't whether she can fix this, it's whether she even has a way back. Has Blake Lively permanently destroyed her Hollywood standing? Or is there still a chance for redemption? Let me know what you think in the comments, because this story is far from over. Justin Baldoni had been working on It Ends With Us for 5 years, pouring his heart into it, shaping it into the film he envisioned. This wasn't just another project for him, it was personal. But according to those close to the situation, everything changed the moment Blake Lively stepped in as the lead actress. Insiders say Blake didn't just take on the role, she took over. And not in the way you'd expect from a dedicated performer. The whispers behind the scenes suggest that she started making decisions far beyond her responsibilities as an actress. From creative choices to major production calls, it seemed like she was positioning herself as the true authority on set. And then came the real power struggle, Final Cut approval. Now, for those who don't know, Final Cut is a huge deal. It's what determines the movie's final version, how it's edited, what stays in, what gets scrapped. Usually, that power is reserved for the director or top producer. But Blake allegedly wanted it all. Full control over how the movie would be shaped in post-production. That's when things really started to fall apart. Sources say Justin felt completely sidelined, watching the project he had built from the ground up being pulled away from him. And according to those close to him, he didn't have much of a choice. He was forced to comply, stuck in a situation where he no longer had control over his own film. But if you think that's where the drama ends, you're wrong, because the power struggle was just the beginning. What happened next took things to an entirely new level.
Was what Blake says, a conversation that she heard had taken place with Steve Sarowitz. Steve Sarowitz is the head of Wayfair Studios. He is the co-founder of Wayfair Studios, along with Justin.
In a new amended complaint in the ongoing legal battle, Lively's legal team saying the experiences of Ms. Lively and others were documented at the time they occurred, starting in May of 2023.
Was what Blake says, a conversation that she heard had taken place with Steve Sarowitz. Steve Sarowitz is the head of Wayfair Studios. He is the co-founder of Wayfair Studios, along with Justin. And she says in this lawsuit that, is it interesting? She says, this is what I heard he said